Paper 2, this is November 2018. Higher level. I'll try to do a standard level separate video at some point. It's been a tough go getting all this stuff ready, but if this is all that I get, just a forewarning for standard level, then you can assume that 2/3 of it is identical. But like I say, I'll try to get a good go of a separate video for you as well. So the first thing, as I mentioned in class last time, and this could be the biggest point of it all for paper 2, flip to option D. Don't just start right in at page 3, right? You might know some of that stuff. You probably don't. Anyway, that's not our option. We did option D. So you're going to go all the way to the end of the paper in May and then back to where option D begins. Which is right here, okay? Inconspicuous, but that's where it begins. So the first thing that I'll say over and over again is you really have to soak up. You really have to soak up the program that they give you. They're going to give you a Java, object-oriented programming program, and you really have to understand it. And that's why I took that last half an hour there on Friday to make sure that that got through to you, that you just can't jump to question 1. You really have to soak it up. It's only 65 marks. What is it, an hour and 20 minutes? So you have time. You have time to really get to know what you're dealing with. And I'm going to do a lot of talking here. This isn't maybe... Well, I suppose I'm going to be talking whether I'm live in front of you or whether I'm recording it. So, but this is the thought process that you've got to go through. Okay, on your mark, get set, go. Here we are. And by the way, with reading time, you can get this started, right? Your 5 minutes. So an airport uses, and I will read through this, an object-oriented programming or program to keep track of the arrivals and departures of planes. Okay, this is something you should be familiar with. There are many objects in the system, and some are listed below. Flight, arrival, flight management. So when they say objects, they mean we will be making objects of these classes. So you got to start to get your head around. Even this early on, you're a minute into the reading time. Flight. What's a flight? Many attributes including unique ID code. Okay, all right, like BA442 or DD7515 coming from Phuket to Don Mueang. Right, that's your flight. Arrival. That's interesting. In addition to a variable of the flight type, already we've got something that we were looking for, or we're going to be looking for, aggregation, that arrival has flight. Okay, and it also has STA. What's that? Scheduled time of arrival. Okay, 24-hour format. All right, a runway number makes sense. A gate code, you're all familiar with that. Delay time in minutes. Right, and an indicator of whether the plane has landed or not. That would be a Boolean. All right, so this is pretty, well, what do we got, by the way, right here? We've got flight, really not a whole lot is shown. Arrival, a lot more of it is shown. All right, but anyway, there's one more class here of which objects will be made, and it's flight management, the main class that manages the arrival and departure of all flights. And maybe what I'm going to do, and you've never seen any of this before, right? And I've seen lots of them, but look through as many of these obviously as you can. That, okay, I see flight and I see arrival. I don't see flight management. Do they give us any indication of flight management anyplace? Oh, there it is. Lo and behold, I kind of expected it, or maybe not. Maybe flight management is a class that you've got to make. But no, sure enough, you've got a lot of flight management. And already I can see, oh, there's another aggregation, right? Already I can see, even in my reading time, that flight management has an array. Oh, that's lovely too. Flight management has an array of arrivals. Right, and an arrival is an object made of this, and it has a flight. So isn't that nice that flight management aggregates into it arrival, and arrival integrates into it or aggregates into it flight. So that's pretty schmancy. Nice. All right, the main class, right. So now, and I'm still in reading time, but even if I didn't have reading time, this is really important to get your head around all this before you take a look at the questions. And you'll see why as we go through this. So, okay, there's not a whole lot here. Get ID just returns, okay, that's like a get, and then more. Okay, got it. Maybe I'll be adding more. Maybe the questions will get me to add more of these. Who knows? For now, let's just try to digest arrival. So there we go. We got that flight object. Great. String STA. What was STA again? Scheduled time of arrival. Okay. Int runway makes sense. Gate, right, like A4 or A6. Delay, right, there's our boolean. Okay, we have a constructor. The constructor only takes in two things that we can send it, but the rest are set, right? They're just set. Interesting that gateway or gate is given null. That looks kind of interesting instead of being given not set yet, but okay, fair enough. And the others are given default values. Okay, no other overloaded constructors for what it's worth. Add delay. Takes in an int. So this is basically like set delay. Delay starts at 0, and if there is a new delay, then we set the delay to what that delay is. Okay, and it's void, it just sets it, right? And at this point my reading time might be up, but I'm still going to digest this. Really try to get my head around it. Calculate the estimated time of arrival, by adding the delay to the STA. Is that as straightforward as I think? STA is when it's supposed to arrive. Delays, right, in terms of minutes, so I'm going to add. Okay, if they get me to code that, that won't be too bad. And two others. Compare with. This looks a little bit weird. Takes in a string, which is flight ID. Okay, here. What's it doing? This is all in one line. Get used to that. They do that a lot. But if myFlight.getID, so even at this early stage, you got to try to get your head around what's going on. My flight, what's my flight? My flight's right. My flight is a flight. Get ID, is there a get? Yes, right? The ID, it's a string. Right, if it equals what I'm sending in, okay, return 0, which is quite frankly counterintuitive. You would think if they were equal, you would return 1, but that's not what it says. It says return 0, else return 1. So we're just seeing if, for some reason, a particular flight ID is our flight ID. Okay, I'm not quite sure at this point how that's going to go down, but okay, kind of get it anyway. We got to compare with a string equality. Okay, and then we got to compare with. Hold on, we have compare with. Okay, and I've looked through this before, right? 2018 or whenever it was, but yeah, polymorphism. Okay, almost for sure I'm going to see a question about polymorphism because these are the same. We don't have any overloaded constructors, but we have the same methods. One takes in a string, one takes in an arrival. What? Well, that's interesting, isn't it? Because this is, what will we call that? It's kind of like self-referential. Maybe there'll be a question about that. But anyway, okay, fair enough. One compare with takes in a string, and another compare with takes in arrival. I think the question is just going to be about polymorphism and accessor and mutator methods, and I'm probably almost 10 minutes into my time with this exam at this point, but this is important. And I know I'm talking a lot and you probably want to fast forward this, but you've got to. And this is, compared to a lot, this is pretty straightforward. Sometimes you get, not really well put together classes, but that's kind of understandable. So here we go. Next point that I want to make, even before we go any further, my eyes dart over here. If you can see me live, they dart over here. 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, 13. Wow. I've got, and I don't even see any coding being asked yet. I've just got, because I can see already, object-oriented programming, advantages, disadvantages. I can see 13 marks out of 65 already, right? Low-hanging fruit. Let's go take a look at yeah, I wrote this here, that the ratio of marks for non-code writing questions to code writing questions is almost 2 to 1, and a 5 is 55%, or actually more like 50%. All by way of saying, I've got some non-coding questions here, which tend to be the lower hanging fruit, and already 13 marks is 65, and a 55 is a 5. Okay, 70 is a 7, right? So, wow. Already I've got some nice juicy questions that don't even include anything to do with the code yet. So here we go. Do my best with these. Outline the general nature of an object. What they're going to get here And again, if I'm teaching you if this, drops into your head, if the coin drops at this moment, great, get it right now. Objects, what is the nature of an object? Two things. You've got stuff, the attributes, and you've got the actions, the methods, right? That's what the nature of an object is. It's attributes that define its certain state and methods that work upon those attributes. What have I got from my answer? Something exactly like that. You can just read through it. Pause it if you want. Okay. Describe two disadvantages of using object-oriented programming. That seems unlikely, especially for 4 marks, right? But there you go. Disadvantages. We should know this. There are a couple of them. One is it can be too complex for simple things that are easily understood without an object-oriented approach. And another one is that the classes will be a bit bigger than otherwise used, so you could end up with it being a little bit slower. The program could be a little bit slower. Okay, and there might be others. And this is what I'll do. I'll just kind of, when I'm recording this, I'll Command Tab and you can pause it if you want to read. I think I've got exactly those two that I just mentioned, and there may be others. 3. One advantage of using modularity. One, there's tons, but this is only one, right? So you got to be careful to pick a good one and outline it. Don't just state it. I mean, for modularity, you've got things like reusability of code. You've got it's easier to understand. You've got divide and conquer. You've got abstraction. Let me just take one of those. I'm going to take abstraction. Great word, right? So I'm going to say one advantage of modularity, like functions, for example, is that each function or each class can be understood on its own, and we don't have to worry about the details of the other functions or the other classes. I've way gone into more than one point there. And here's the answer that I've got here. And right, B, we already saw this. We saw this coming. State the relationship between the flight object and the arrival object. Flight and arrival. Flight and arrival, which is which? Arrival has flight. So it's, but hold on, it just says state, doesn't it? It doesn't even say which has which. It just says state the relationship. State is state. State is aggregation. And just for the routine, there you go. And you will notice in my marking scheme that I have said that arrival has a flight. Can't hurt for 1 mark to put a little bit of extra. It's only going to take you 10 seconds. And by the way, I am kind of whizzing through these, what I'm calling low-hanging fruit. You haven't studied yet. Just like in the 1 and only or 2 only days that we did paper 1s, you haven't studied yet. But when you study and you see something like that, you're going to have it ready. You're going to have aggregation. You're going to have polymorphisms. You're going to have encapsulation, or whatever the terms are. So then, and you're going to see this, you definitely 4 marks, right? You're going to see this. You're going to see create a UML diagram. You can pause on this again for the. I guess I haven't done ever this kind of a video before, but there's no reason, I don't think, for me to linger too long on the answers, because you can pause it. And this is stuff I could explain. I think more to the point, I need to be showing you how to approach the test as much as the answer. But anyway, briefly, here you go, right? The minus is for private, the plus is for public. Types are following a colon. So those are all types. Return methods return a type. Parameters have the parameter name and the type. Remember, there's a lot of variety there too, but that will do it fine. All right, 13 marks, well underway, and you'd be taking a lot more time. I mean, again, 1.3 minutes per mark. You could take a whole lot longer than I've taken, but don't forget, we've already taken the time, there in the beginning to look through the program. Deep breaths. The code below outlines part of the flight management class used in this program. For the purpose of this exam, only arriving flights are being considered. I don't know what that has to do with anything, but okay. Flight management. Oh, okay, fair enough. Right, so now it's time for me to get my head around this if I hadn't done it before. Flight management. What does it got? Lovely, it's got an array of arrivals. There's some more aggregation. Int last sign -1. Last. Last can mean lots of different things. Index of last used entry. Right, so it must mean the last used entry in the array. And so that makes sense to begin with that -1 would be the last one used, because probably what we're going to be doing is like, well, it will be last plus plus for index 0, and then plus plus for index 1, and so on. Okay, that seems to make sense to me. Down I go to flight management, constructor, inbound. Inbound's the array. It's just finished off being made as an array. So we have 200 that can be kept track of. Okay, fair enough. Add, and again, you just cannot take enough time soaking up this. Add takes in an arrival. Okay, this is the one where I kind of anticipated already that we must be using last, right? So like inbound chunk chunk last after it's plus plus. Okay, I think you get where I'm going with that, but I think we get what that's going to do. It's going to add on to the array. And for sure, if we're going to do a question that finishes off, make sure that you increment the last plus plus. And it might even, you might even be checking to make sure you're less than 200 so you don't go over at the end. So we'll do that when the time comes, if it does. Search, missing code that searches the array. And so just generally, this is where you're going to see that's question A, right? That's question B. So we'll probably see both of these being implemented here in the questions, but let's just think through it. First, search takes in a flight ID. Well, there is no flight ID. Well, the arrival must have an ID, right? So let's take a look back at arrival even now. Arrival has an ID. No. Oh, but it has a flight which has an ID. Get it? Okay. So we're going to have an array of arrivals, and to get an ID, we're going to get a flight. It's flight, the my flight dot get ID. So that's pretty likely going to come up here soon. Yeah. Okay, got my head around that enough. Remove. Ooh, yuck. Removes are normally not the nicest functions. Flight ID, arrival result. Okay, so it's returning a result. Makes sense. Right, it's returning one of these from the array. But it's removing it. Okay, I'm a little bit discombobulated with this one, so maybe I'll just wait till I see the question. But anyway, an index result. Okay, I mean, for me, having taught this for a while, I think I can see where it's going, but this is a great example for maybe in your first perusal through of a program, you're like, don't quite get it. Okay, maybe now this is starting to make sense to you. Okay, I'm going to remove it and remove one of them, and then all the others are going to be kind of shifted back. I kind of get that part. Or maybe you don't. Maybe you don't. Maybe you don't. Or maybe there's not even going to be a question about this. You don't know. But I think I've taken my, looking at the clock, probably a good 5 minutes to kind of soak this up. Flight management, array of arrivals. Okay, I kind of get what's going on here. All right, so take me to the questions. The method search in the flight management class searches the array inbound and returns the index of the, well, let's take a look at search again, even right now. Search, yeah, search was the one that I kind of figured that I figured how that was going to work probably. Right, with the given flight ID. That was the one we were going to get arrival.flight.getID. Gotcha. So construct the method search, implementing a linear search. Okay, well, here we go. 4 marks. Use the first compare with method. What? Construct the method search, implementing linear search. Use the first compare with method in the arrival object. Well, that's interesting. So already I'm kind of stuck. But that's fine. And again, am I kind of stuck right now? You know, me at age 50, whatever, and blah, blah, blah. No, but if I'm you, at this point, I'm like, whoa, that's kind of thrown a curveball. So, fair enough. Stop, take a deep breath. You've already got 20 marks of low-hanging fruit, and you're 20 minutes into this thing. So, okay, it looks like we got a hard one for 4 marks. Construct a method search. Okay, all I know is it takes in flight ID, but it's telling me to use the first compare with in the arrival object. Okay, compare with in the arrival object. This one. So I better come back to here and really try to assimilate this one more time. Searching for, right, aha, coins dropping, right, because what I'm searching for is a flight ID. Okay, and the flight ID comes from this flight, right, so compared to, so here's the flight I'm looking for. Okay, and for a particular arrival, I've got my flight. Oh, it's right here for me. This is actually going to make it easier. My flight.getID is going to get the ID from the flight class. Okay, and I just want to see if a particular flight ID for a particular arrival equals what I'm looking for. And if I found it, then it returns 0. Okay. So compare with takes in a flight ID. Boy, now I'd really like to go up to the board and start messing around, and I can't. Anyway, you just have to follow my voice. Here we go. So search. So in the search, well, I guess we're going to look through right to see if there's any arrival. See if there's any arrival in the inbound that equals this. So just talking through in my head, I'm going to see a 4. I mean, this part you should get a point or two for. 4 int I is assigned 0. I is less than inbound dot length, right? I plus plus. If inbound chunk I dot, and that's where we can use, we just use this. Compare with equals 0, we found it. That's the answer. And again, I'm sorry that I can't do this on the board. It would be so much easier. But right now it's 7:57 p.m. the night before your class with everything else is going on. We'll just have to, I guess we'll just have to take a look at the answer key. Well, there it is, right? How do I want to do this? Can I zoom in on this? Yeah, right. I mean, that's it. I 0 less than inbound dot length, I plus plus, couple marks. I mean, this is worth 4 marks, so that's got to be worth at least 1, I guess. Maybe this is worth 2 and that's worth 1. If inbound I, because we're going through the inbound, compare with, we just use it. Compare with flight ID equals 0. Return I. I'm saying this is a tough question, by the way, for only 4 points, and it is. But that's the answer. Am I returning the right thing? Int search. That's compare with. Where's search? Yep. So, geez, what to do? Okay, just one more time, okay? This is one of the hard ones from this test, so one more time. We're searching through the array, so there's the array. We know how searching through an array should work. For the first line, it's this. And then it's going to be if, I mean that part, right, you're going to get. And this is a good point to make that whenever they say in a question, you can use a method, usually that makes it easier, right? By using, as it turns out, by using that compare with, the compare with returned the ID, right? It did it. We didn't even have to use dot notation to go get it. It just returned it. And it was either going to be equal to 0 or it was going to be equal to 1, right? And if it equals 0, we found it. And so we returned where we were. Tough question. Made all the tougher by me not having a whiteboard in front of me. Anyway, we'll go on. But you know what? If that's the first place where watching this video or doing a paper 2, you get frustrated, again, you got to keep in mind that you've already had 13 marks there of low-hanging fruit, and I can see a bunch more coming up right here. Okay? So that's our 4, but look at this. Binary search, 2 marks. Disadvantage, 2 marks. Which is security of, data hiding. I'm pretty sure we'll get that one, 2 marks. Polymorphism, right? So, and this is something that I will go back to, and again, for the 3rd time, made all the tougher because I'm doing this as a video, but look at this. It's so true. Students who succeed on the paper 2 of IB Computer Science are the ones who don't get frustrated by the difficult coding questions. If you do enough practice, you're going to get that question, right? But you may not. You don't have to, right? So don't get flustered by those 4 marks. Remember that you've just done 13 more straightforward ones, and you got another 4, 6, 8, 9 coming your way out of 65. So anyway, enough of that. E1, outline one advantage of using a binary search. Well, but it's outlined for 2 marks, right? So we're going to say something like, it is more efficient than a linear search because every step along the way you eliminate half of the other results, blah, 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 blah. Let's just get that up on the screen, and you can pause it here if you would like. Okay, there it is. Next, one disadvantage of using binary. Disadvantage? Ooh, there is one clear one, and that is that the data structure has to be sorted. And that wouldn't be enough just saying the data structure has to be sorted. You'd have to go on to say that sorting takes a lot of maintenance or a lot of processing power to keep a data structure sorted. 14. More theory. Outline the use of data hiding as a security feature in OOP. That one, if you hadn't have prepared, you might not know what they were getting at because we didn't use the term data hiding so much. But if you had prepared the advantages of OOP, encapsulation, private attributes are a security feature, right? Encapsulation is a security feature where we hide attributes. Other users from other classes can't manipulate our private attributes. They have to access the attributes only through the public accessor and modifier methods. Blah, blah. More here. That was wherever we were there, 14. Yeah, down there. BI, the arrival object has 2 methods named. There, we knew it was coming sooner or later. Well, we hoped it did anyway. Polymorphism. Outline why calling the compare with method does not cause a conflict. It's polymorphism, but I see 2 marks, and I also have my eyes jump down here, state the name of this. So actually polymorphism, you'll be writing for the 2 part. Outline why calling the compare to method will not cause conflict. Well, remember that compare to is an example, or compare with is an example of polymorphism. One takes in a string, the other takes in an arrival. So if you call compare with and you send a string, it's not this one, it's that one, right? If you call compare with and you send an arrival object, then it's that one, and the compiler will not get confused. And right, so you can pause right there if you want to take a look. And we're down to the name of that property is polymorphism. So this is one of those times where you have this paragraph that's sitting in the middle between 2 different parts of a question. This is the preface setting up the C. right? This goes with the C. Whew, and we'll take a break after this. So halfway through. The method compare with, we're back to compare with, arrival, compares the estimated time of arrival, the ETA, of the current arrival object. Now let's take a look at that compare with again. So this one, well, there's no code there. Okay, probably going to get us to code it. Okay, all right. Compare with is in the arrival class. And now I kind of get how this is kind of like, you know, a node within a node. It's an arrival within an arrival because you want to compare the arrival you're sending to this arrival. Okay. All right, so continuing on, and you have to flip back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Look at the code, look at the question, look at the code, look at the question. Try to understand the question, try to understand the code. Take some time, and this will probably take you more than 4 minutes probably for this one, but you probably got a few minutes to spare after going through those. Right, so the method compare with arrival, another arrival compares the estimated time of arrival of the current arrival object, right, with the ETA of another one. Now it's all coming together. So we're going to compare this arrival's ETA. Where's the ETA? Right, the ETA actually is calculated. It's calculated, we looked at that before, between or with the scheduled plus the delay, ETA. I don't know if that's important or not, but so we're going to send an arrival with a certain ETA, and it's going to be compared to this ETA, which we're going to have to use the get ETA. Remember, yeah, we will. Remember that. If we're going to code it, we're going to need to get ETA. We're going to do some sort of compare. Yeah, how are we going to do that? Well, let's read the question. Still haven't finished reading the question. The method should return a negative value if the current arrival object's ETA is less than the ETA of the other one, right? So if the one we're in is less than, okay, this is going to help us. And by the way, this is another one where almost everybody in the world's not going to get this question, but it's gettable. I'll explain how. Remember that the string class contains a method compare to as follows. Given two string variables a and b, a.compare to b is less than 0. If a is before b, Aaron is before, what are some other names in that? Balake. A is before b. And they're equal if they're equal, and a is greater than, right? So Zoe compared to Aaron is going to be greater than 0. And by the way, that's all we've, this is going to turn into a little bit of teaching. That's all we've really done with compare to before. We haven't used the numbers. We just, in our, for example, sorts and searches, which you would have done in your IAs not too long ago, probably, we just wanted to know if one was less than. We didn't need to know what the number was. Like A compared to C is -2. A compared to D is -3. But I can see here, they want it to return the value. So it's going to be like, what's it going to be? Like this dot get ETA dot compared to the one we take in. That's what we return. So I can start to see this in my mind. Again, if I had a whiteboard, but I don't. But see if you can follow my voice here, right? So we're going to use compare to. We got the arrival. I think it's probably starting to come together for some of you now. But the arrival, we got to get ETA. The new arrival is going to have a get ETA. So it's going to be something like return this dot get ETA dot compare to another arrival dot get ETA. In fact, I think that's it. So let me just go to the answer. And really, I'll say this once again, that I am realizing doing this for the first time live that these coding questions, that's what we'll do when we're back on campus, okay? I'll do a few more of these, or at least one more for Thursday's class of these paper 2s where I'll talk a lot and talk through mainly the theory questions, but it's really hard to kind of show my thought process. Well, hold on. Again, the clock's ticking, and tomorrow's Tuesday, and there are 15,000 things going on. How about this idea? How about I go and just do a new, I'll just do the coding here. That's not a bad idea at all. I'm not going to cheat and take a look at my answer. So here's what I'm thinking. Yeah, this is the way I'll do it. I'll just type. This can work out well, I think. Not as well as it would with a whiteboard, but not bad. Sorry for that little tangent, but watch this. So here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking, geez, I can even copy and paste this, can't I? Well, yeah, I'm going to copy paste just for all the time that saved. All right. So what I'm thinking is, I can do this all in one line actually. Returning a number. It's going to be this, and I can go this dot get ETA, and I don't even have to do the subtraction, right? Because that'll do it. And by the way, you might be thinking, yeah, but it's not coded. It doesn't matter. With these paper twos, if you've got a function that tells you what it does, you can use it. You don't have to code it. Okay. So then it's going to be dot compare to, right, which is what was showing us later or further on down in the question, compared to, and I think this is just it, another arrival. And I'm making this look easy, way easier than it would have been for 90% of the kids who did this in 2018 November. But I think that'll do it. Just see if you understand why it would before I take a look at the answer key. That we're taking in this another arrival, which will have a get ETA, and we're comparing it to this get ETA, which is for this one, and we're returning, it'll be a difference. Compare to is going to return a number. Okay, I think that's it. So let's just see if we got our, it's only 3 marks for crying out loud. Yeah, it's right here. Is this the same? Yep, that's the answer. Okay, and you can freeze it, take a look through that if you want. Again, stressing, what's most important here is that the coding questions are hard, and they're not worth a whole lot to this point compared to the other stuff, but certainly give it a go. And I said I would end there, and I will end about halfway through. Yeah, I'll end there.